Hey guys, this is Grace and welcome to layout number 3 for our Back to Basics layout mini series. If you're new to my channel or new to this series, I usually do a mini series every other month, and it's usually about 5 to 6 layouts with an introduction. And basically, I just think of a theme that I wanted to focus on when I'm scrapbooking. I feel like sometimes I go through in a rut, and I feel like I need to focus on a technique or an idea or something or a theme, and then go with that. And that really kind of expands my creativity and gets me thinking out of my box. It's also, I consider, like a mini lesson. So if you're looking for some mini lessons about scrapbooking, please consider looking at my other mini series and hope that that will inspire you in your next crafting. Okay, so let's go on with this one. With Back to Basics, I was working with just the basics. You actually helped me to figure out what are those basic products that I will be using. And through the community tab here on YouTube, I did a poll, and the people that participated in a poll said that they consider basics to be cardstock, pattern paper, and punches. So those are the things that I will be focusing on or working on, or using rather, for the 5 layouts that I created. We are on layout number 3, and this one I went with pattern paper. So my goal here in this layout is to just use pattern paper, and I don't know if I use punches here. I can't quite remember, but I use a bunch of pattern paper. And one of the things that I found out when creating with just pattern paper is to, especially if you have a themed layout, is to use a collection. And so I was using a Pebbles collection, a birthday one, and it just so happens that these photos that I am scrapbooking are birthday photos, so they matched perfectly. And let me tell you, using pattern paper is a little bit easier than using just cardstock, because now it has patterns, like whether it's dots or stripes, or I don't know, my eye was happier looking at all these patterns than just the plain colors on the cardstock. So I really can, I'm just learning so much about the way I scrapbook through this series, and it's it has some kind of I'm just having so many epiphanies with this particular series that it blows my mind. Anyways, I know that for some, you're probably thinking, wow, like she is making this such a bigger deal than it is. But if you have been scrapbooking for a while and you really love the idea of design and, learning from the process, it's just interesting for me how different I look at design now, and how I scrapbook in the process that I have because of the products that I am exposed to now. So that was one of the epiphanies that I had with this series. So I invite you, if you have been scrapbooking for a while, if you've been in a rut, kind of try some different themes with your scrapbooking, and go back to basics like what I did, and let me know, do you realize that you're comfortable with just creating with pattern paper, or comfortable with just creating cards with cardstock? And I'm kind of curious what your experience would be like, if it would be the same as mine, or that you're fine just working with those very minimal supplies. So anyways, let's go back to the layout. So I'm doing a double page just because I have a lot more photos than a single page has room for. I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 10 photos here, and then some of them are vertical, and then most of them are vertical rather, and then 2 of them are horizontal. So because my goal is to just use pattern paper, this particular collection actually only has single-sided. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be using some of the pattern paper, the back side of it, which is the white, that I don't care for so much, and I'm going to use that as my mat. I felt like these photos, especially the center ones, needed a mat, because it just needed to stand out against all of the pattern from the papers, the background papers. And as you can see, I layered a bunch of the pattern papers in the background, and then I also use the colorful stripe as my border here, because if you have been watching me, you know that I love my borders. I love to contain my layouts because I don't know, just pleasing to my eye. So now, one of the things too with this matting is I realized that these blocks of vertical photos will be gutted or will be placed in the very edge of the papers, whether that's the left side or the right side. So I figured that I will just mat the top, bottom, and one side with the white cardstock, or no, rather the back side of the pattern paper, and then leave the other side, the one that's really close to the edge, would just not have a white background, so that's it's seamless when you put the two layouts together. Now, like I said I think it was in layout number 2, that I have already pre-cut a bunch of script generic titles, and one of them is the word happy, and I happen to have cut that in 2 different types of paper. One is just a regular textured cardstock, and then the other one is a glittered cardstock. So I decided to do kind of a shadow effect here, where I use the beige or the lighter colored cream cardstock as my shadow, and then the glittered as the forefront, or the front title, if that makes any sense. So I placed that one on top of the other, where the glittered one is just slightly off to the right, so that you can see the shadow effect. Now, I guess if I'm really talking about shadows, then the dark one should be on the back. But I felt like because there's that pattern paper on the back, that a lighter color would also work good for this particular design. So I am going to title this layout as Happy Party. I was actually going to do Happy Birthday or something like that, but I ran out of letters, if you can believe that. So I'm just going to go with Party, just because I wanted to use up all of the letters, or use up as much of the letters that I cut out from the die cut machine. And so this particular collection actually had some cut apart papers, which I love. I think that's one of the really easy ways for you to maximize pattern papers, especially collections, and especially if you are not using stickers, if you're not using any kinds of embellishments, because you can make your own. Like this one, I punched out some design, like the cupcake and the cake. I punched that out with circles, and then I also punched out the striped paper using some scallop punch as the background piece for that element. And then I also cut out a few more different kinds of embellishments from the cut apart sheet. And this time I felt like the accents that I cut the cupcake and the cake could use as a visual triangle. And so since I only had 2, I needed a third one to, do that triangle. So I'm just cutting out the elements from this paper, and I needed to cut around it so I can center the cupcake there. Now, the problem with this cupcake, it had a straw in the back, and it just looked kind of weird having that line sticking out there. So I'm not going to use that cupcake. I am just going to use this kind of chocolate cake that I had punched out as well. So I'm going to cut another one of that scallop paper, scallop stripe paper, and then layer that with the cake. And then I'm going to use some foam adhesive for these elements, so that I can make them dimensional. And then I also cut out, as you can see, I cut out a present, I cut out a birthday hat, I cut out the word party with the date, which I will stamp the date on there. And then I also pre-printed my journaling. And so that's basically my layout. One thing that I have to tell you with this was that it needed a little bit of little something. And this is where I was telling you about how I had wished that I could use some enamel dots, but I was trying really, really hard to stick with the basics. And yeah, so here I'm going to try to figure out what can I put that's a little, and I guess I could just sprinkle some, cut out those party hats that was in the pattern paper, but I just didn't want to do any fussy cutting. And then I thought, well, maybe I can punch out some stars with this one, but no, it's not going to work. So basically, this is my layout. I hope that you guys like it. If you have any questions, let me know in the description box below. Please hit like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.